Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode on the channel. And in today's episode, you will learn how to be more productive with PHP Storm. In this video, we're going to go over a few things like shortcuts, how to add your custom shortcuts at the same time. We're going to go over things like adding a file, adding a PHP class, adding a PHP method using PHP Storm, adding plugins to PHP Storm, customizing a little bit of your editor. And we're just going to go over them really briefly, but you can play with it on your own. Also using Git, connect to Docker, and running unit tests. So let's not waste time and get started. The first thing we're going to be going over is the double shift. So we're going to start with shortcuts. And to me, this is where PHP Storm just stands out above the rest. I've used other text editors, and honestly PHP Storm is the one that performs better for me. So this is the one that actually makes me more productive, and I've heard the same from a bunch of people. I did try VS Code, I did try Sublime for a while, I did try Atom, and definitely this one's the one that has a bunch of more things that I need. So again, if we go into the double shift, so if we do that, you're gonna see this option come up. So basically what this is just going through all the different files and all the different things that you have in your project. So that's a good thing because you're searching everywhere within your project. So basically I can go like this and say, hey, I want to find this burger, or maybe something that is not there. I want to find an ID like in one of my CSS classes or one of my CSS files. I want to go ahead and find that I can, and it'll take me right there really fast. And that is good, except that when you have a very large project, it can get very slow at times. So in my opinion, I like using Shift Command O, which is one of the commands that we have in here. And basically Shift Command O gives you the same thing, but it goes right into file. So if you know you're going to be searching for a file, you can just use Shift Command O and search for the files, and you can go to that file really quickly. It's a lot faster than doing double shift because it's not looking for it everywhere, like in your classes, in your text, in your files. It's just looking for it in files if you just do Shift Command O. Another way you can do this, if you want to go back into that style example, we can do a Shift Command F, and with Shift Command F you can go and do the same. So in this example, I was trying to find navbar. I can go in navbar, and then I can quickly navigate through everything that has navbar in it, and I can see it right here. Okay, that's not the one that I want, or I can move really quickly through it, and that gives me a much better way for me to find things, text within these files. So that's Shift Command F for finding text within the files, and Shift Command O for finding actual file names. The next one we're going to be going over in here is Shift Command A. And basically Shift Command A just gives you the same thing that you see here, actions. So if I want to find a certain action within this, like for example, I want to search for something like soft or save, you can right here. So if I want to save for some reason, I can go in here and like find exactly what I want. And here you see how it has the shortcode. So I can actually use the shortcut, or just right here, if I can navigate through it with my arrows and then enter it if I want to. So that's going to save that file for me. And that's very handy when you don't know exactly what you're looking for. Maybe you have an idea and you don't know where it is. You can quickly do Shift Command A and find actions like that within PHP Storm. The next one is F2. This one is very handy for finding errors. So if you want to, let me see a file that has errors. If you want to find errors within a file, it's really simple with PHP Storm. All you do is tap on F2, and it's going to take you error by error down every single error that you have on that specific file. So in this case, this one, for example, is saying it's a typo. I can just do Alt Enter, and then once I do Alt Enter, I can save that into my project directory, and I don't, in the dictionary, sorry, and then that's already saved, so it's not gonna be an error anymore. If I had more errors, I just keep pressing F2, and that's gonna take me through all the different errors that I have within that file, which is awesome when you're trying, maybe you have a file that has a bunch of errors, or maybe you don't, you're just getting started with the file, or you have somebody else's file, you're trying to fix some errors. That really comes in handy for you. Command E gives you a list of the recent files, so I use this a lot because say you're not looking over on this bar over here at what files you have. All I gotta do if I want to go back, like for example, I want to go back really quickly to the app service provider, is I can just Command E, look for the file, the last file is going to be the first one, or I can look for Webpack, whatever file that I just recently opened. So maybe I'm working on the last 2 or 3 files, maybe I'm making some kind of service or something with PHP or something with JavaScript. I can definitely go through all those files really quickly with Command E, and it's only gonna give me, like it says in there, only the last files that were open. The next one, it's Alt Up. So this one is actually why I quit VS Code, and maybe there was something I was missing with VS Code. One thing with VS Code is that I had to add a lot of plugins and a lot of different things for the functionality that PHPStorm has out of the box. And it's not only PHPStorm, every IntelliJ text editor has these options. So first of all, I'm used to it, and second of all, this is the one that I just couldn't find a replacement for, and I realized I can't live without it. So if I go here in the front, and I can give you a better example, say I want to select everything that's within this navigation tag right here. All I have to do is do Alt Up and continue to do that until you see that everything gets selected. So what was selected is everything within that navigation tag right here, nothing else. And that is awesome because now I can just be right here within this right here within this div like logo wrapper, and I say, you know what, I want to copy this logo. I can just do that. Like I can just go Alt Up and it's gonna give me that logo wrapper, and I can copy it or move it or do whatever I want with it. Another good one is Shift Command Up. That's gonna move it up, as you see. So right now it's inside the container class right here, and if I do up, it's gonna be outside of the container class. If I do down, it's gonna be inside. So this really is really powerful when you're working with a lot of files and you want to get things done really quickly. And honestly, to me, this was the one that sold me on, like, okay, I'm just going back to PHPStorm and paying the monthly fee because I just can't live without this one. So Alt Down is the same thing, so it's just the opposite. So with Alt Up we're selecting, with Alt Down we're deselecting. So we're decreasing whatever the current selection is. So again, if I go into the logo wrapper, that's selected. If I go back, that's not selected. And even if I go inside like this PHP and PHP file, so right here, this is Laravel, so I'm right here. If I keep selecting, you see how first it selects this, then it goes everything inside the logo wrapper, then it's everything inside the nav brand, and if I do it down, you see how everything just goes back to each stage of the selection that we were on. And that's really, to me, really powerful. The next one we're going to be going over is Shift Command Right. So with Shift Command Right, what you can do is say that you want to copy everything that's from this point to the right. All you do is Shift Command Right, and you're going to copy everything from this point to the right. And the same thing with the left. So as you're going down, say you found a line, you find a piece of code that you can reuse or something like that, and you just want to copy that, then you can just boom, really quickly select it. This is the same as Shift Command Right, just goes to the left. Shift Command Right goes to the right. Shift Command O we went over, so basically you search through files, and I can go through the file again, app service provider right there. The same thing with Shift Command F, that's for search for text in the project. Control G, so this one finds the next occurrence of the current selection. So what this means is sometimes you may need to change, for example, say I wanted to change this URL configuration, app URL right here. If I want to find every occurrence within this file or just the next occurrences, I can just do Control G, and as I go down with Control G, it's going to find every occurrence of that in the same file. And this is awesome because now I can just change this all at once. You see, so it changed this one, and it changed the one that I found right here. So I don't need to go one by one and then change them, one by one. I can just change them all at the same time. That's a really, really big time saver to me. I'm all about saving time. So Control G. Command D, it duplicates the current line. So if I want to say have another burger menu right here, all I do is Command D, and that's going to give me a duplicate of that line. Command 1 opens up this sidebar right here. So if you do Command 1, you have access to the sidebar, which has all your project and your project's files in it, and you can quickly navigate through that. If you don't know exactly the name that you're trying to find, and you don't want to use Shift Command O for some reason, then you can definitely find it like this. So you just go Command 1 and quickly go through all your files within your project. That is good for you to get a good understanding of your project. And then Command 7 gives you a good understanding of your current files structure. So this is for the structure, this one's for the sidebar for the project, and Command 7 is for the structure. So that'll give me a good idea, for example, this blade file, what it has and how it works. So I can go through it, clear enter on it, and then it's going to take me right into each one of this stack and this yield content. And I use it mostly for PHP files and also JavaScript, Vue.js files and React files. And this is really good for you to understand maybe some large files when some of your colleagues maybe wrote a really large files with a lot of methods on it, a class with a lot of methods. Then definitely you can go through it and get a better understanding of what each method is doing and how it works right here, just looking at the structure of the file. And as you see, each one is different, and it gives you a different map, a structure of each file. So that's Command 7 and then Command 1. And with that, these are some of the shortcuts that I use the most. Those are not the only one by any means. There are a lot more, and you can probably just leave some more shortcuts in the comment section. I would love to hear from you and love to hear what shortcuts you use the most, which ones are your favorites. These are just some of the ones that allow me to save time, but definitely I'm open to learning a lot more from you and seeing what other shortcuts you use. And with that, we're going to go into customizing the keymaps. So you can actually customize all these shortcuts you're liking. You don't necessarily have to keep the ones that PHPStorm provides. You can also download plugins that have different keymaps that maybe you're looking for. And how do you do that? Well, that's easy. So if we do Command, we're going to go right into the options. So you can either do PHPStorm preferences, or as you see here, Command, it's going to take you right into this menu, and you can go right down into keymap. And there are two ways you can search for a keymap. You can either say something like, I want command line, and run like which one is the one that runs my command line, look for that. Or you can search for a specific shortcut right here. So I can say, hey, which one is command 5? You see how I have this one mapped to terminal? I did that by default. So I actually went in and changed this. I looked for terminal, found terminal, and then I clicked on it. You can do add keyboard shortcut, and then right here you can change to whatever shortcut you need. And the result of that is that I can just do command 5 and I have my terminal right here available for me. You can do this with any shortcut you want. So if you have one that you're trying to use and you can't find it, you can definitely search for it right here, or change whatever you already have set right here. So you can look for maybe some of the shortcuts, like say I wanted to change Shift Command O. You see how it's go to file. Maybe you wanted to change that to something else. You can definitely do that. So you will have to remove it and then add it somewhere to whatever action you're trying to do. And like I said before, there are a ton of more shortcuts, so don't think these are the only ones. There are a ton more. These are the most popular, I will believe, the ones that most people use. But definitely check out the documentation. So if you can go through JetBrains, this link right here, I will leave the URL in the comments so you can go through that and look at every single one that they have. Or you can find some more resources on Google. These are just some examples, so just don't be constrained by only these examples. Right now we're going to be moving on from Keymaps into the next section, which is going to be more of like just using it. And the first thing we're going to be going over is Emmet. So what is Emmet? If I go here in my frontend.play.php, say you wanted to create a HTML structure. Usually you do like div, and then you do say maybe you want an h3, and the way I'm doing that, I'm just doing h3 and then tab, and that gives me already the entire HTML, so I don't have to write h3 and then closing and then the closing tag for h3. I just do h3 tab, and that's what the Emmet is doing. So if I want to create, say for example, a bootstrap container with a row with 3 columns, and in one of the columns I want an h3, I can just do something like bootstrap, okay, div, and that's gonna have a class container. This container is gonna have a row, so actually it's gonna have a child that's gonna have a row, and this is gonna have a few children that are gonna have a call for, and I'm gonna do ×3. So let me tab on that. You see right here I just generated very extensive, and you can see how if you're doing more, it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just better when you know how to do these things, because you can save a ton of time, especially if you start practicing. Eventually you'll master some of these things and you'll really get things done a lot quicker than you did before. So let me just do that, close it. So that was Emmet, and the next one is how to create a new file. So how you can create a new file within PHPStorm. Again, command 1, and I go in here into my app, say I wanted to add a new controller. I go into controllers and I do command N, and that's gonna give me a list of things to do. So what do you want to do? You want to create a PHP class, a PHP file, and I'm sort of gonna do this one with a PHP class already, and I can do new controller, whatever name I wanted to have for that controller, and that's gonna give me a controller class and the file name, obviously. And that's really good, because then you don't have to like create the file and then come here and add PHP and namespace and all that. It already generates it for you. And again, just like I created a class right here, you can just create a file. So if you wanted to do a JavaScript file or a view component, this view component, it's actually a plugin. I will get into that in a little bit, but you can create all of these different files without any problem. Actually, it's really easy to do. And again, if we go into the class, we can create interfaces or we can create traits. So if I wanted to just create an interface, I can just say controller interface, and what that's going to give me, it's an interface of that. And that's awesome because it honestly saves you a lot of time, especially if you're writing a big service or something like that. You can quickly create these files and just be on your way. Now we're going to go into adding plugins. So if we do command comma, we can go into the plugins right here. And these are some of the plugins that I have already, the ones that you see that need update. Or if you want to find any plugin that you're trying to use, you click on marketplace and then you can find different ones. So I don't have the Laravel support, I don't have some of those yet, but definitely give some of these a try depending on what you're trying to accomplish. I do have things like Docker, Vue, like you just saw, so that allows me, the Vue plugin allows me to come here and do things like, hey, I want to create a new Vue component. And that Vue component, when I create it, and actually let me create one so you can see it, it's gonna have already the boilerplate for me. So if I do here Vue component and I just do boilerplate, you see it gave me already a template, script, style, everything ready for me to just start coding the actual component itself. And a lot of the plugins, they give you a lot of help for what you're trying to accomplish. This is really important because then you can extend PHPStorm even further. Obviously, as you add more plugins, that adds more space, more hard drive space. Not too much, but it is if you're trying to just keep that down, but also memory that you're consuming. So I always try to keep that as little as possible. Only use the ones that I really need. So now we're gonna go over how to style some of the editor, how I style this editor, for example. So if you go again, command comma, and you go into editor, you can see here you have these options. So you can go to general, that gives you like a general idea of that. But if we go, for example, into font, I can change the font that you see in my editor right here. So I can change that font. Let me see it change. It'll give you a preview right here of what you're trying to do. Oh, this is the one that is defined right here. Color scheme font, fire code. And this is the color scheme that I'm using. So you can use a ton of more color schemes. I am actually using a plugin called Rainglow, and it gives me a ton of options. So if I change, for example, to Comrade Life, I don't want to change my options, but basically you get the idea. You can change a lot of these options. Let me just see which one I'm on. Color scheme, I'm on Brave. So if I want to do Carbon, that's going to change the way this looks, you see. It's not very good looking, but you get the picture. You can change that as much as you want. Again, let me go back to Brave. And the same thing with some coding styles. You can make adjustments based on the code, the language that you are using. So you can adjust that. And just to go back into the color scheme, that's how you can adjust your editor. But there is a plugin that I use or used to use a lot, which is the material theme. And that gives you a really neat theme if you want to use, also change this right here, this interface. I'm not using it anymore because of memory issues on my computer. I'm very limited on that, so I don't use it. I don't see it necessary to. But if that's something that you're into, definitely go ahead and change the color scheme and all that for your editor. And that's one of the other things that I really love about PHPStorm. It's all the options that it has for styling it, and for you to actually have something personalized that you want to work in, because you're gonna spend hours doing this. So basically it's just good, when you really like what you're working on, honestly. And then I'm gonna move on get into Git right here. So if I have it mapped to command 9. I think that's the default. If not, I already showed you how to do keymap, a custom key shortcode, so you can do that through the keymap. And we're gonna go into the Git. So right here, you see how I changed this couple things right here. It's giving me boilerplate, and I changed this color. And what I can do with this is I can go in here, or if file by file, and I can commit that. So I can go right here, I can do a commit, change the text of that commit message that I'm trying to do, and then I can commit and push. So that'll give you a commit and then push it into your repository. That's awesome, because you don't really have to go out of PHPStorm. I use the command line for pushing Git a lot, but definitely I'm trying to use this one more and more, because then I don't have to get out of the editor at all. That's command 9. So you'll see the option. And say you have Docker on your computer and you're trying to connect with Docker, the first thing you need to do is you're gonna have to download a plugin called Docker. So I already have that installed, and what that does, it gives you the ability to add the Docker instances into your current language. So I am using PHP right here for this project, and maybe this one doesn't have an interpreter yet, but I can set it up. So if I go here, if I want to set the PHP CLI interpreter for this project, I can go here, add it, and then that's what the plugin is giving me, the ability for me to add these things right here. So I can do from Docker. I'm gonna do from Docker compose, and in this case I am using laradoc. So I'm gonna have to find the configuration file for that specific instance. Let me see. And that right there is in a sibling directory called laradoc right here. Actually, yeah, there it is. So it went through laradoc, and then it went into docker compose YAML that's inside laradoc, and now it's telling me, hey, I found these services. I'm gonna be going over the workspace, which is the workspace that this specific Docker instance uses for me to be able to access just a workspace or just a shell for the project. And yeah, I mean, I can just hit OK, and it's gonna map it for me. So it already knows that the CLI interpreter for PHP for that specific project is the one that is configured on that Docker compose YAML file. This way, when I run tests, for example, it'll know what file or what PHP interpreter to use and how to go about it. And you can only do that if you add the Docker plugin. So I don't have debugger yet, so that's fine. It's very bare bones project still, so I don't have a lot of that. So here I set it up. So this is workspace. I maybe change the name to Docker PHP, so I know that that's the PHP Docker interpreter. So now I already have the interpreter. I think I'm using PHP 7.3 in there, and that's it. Like, I have already my PHP interpreter set up for this project, and this allows me to go and run tests. So I don't I don't think I've run tests for this application, but we can try it out. And that's one more thing that PHPStorm does. You can do Command Alt R, and that's going to give you an option here where you're going to be able to run some of these tests. As you see, this test basic example is the one that I want to run. So I just go down on this one, go right, and then run. And this right here, it's gonna go into Docker. It's gonna get the interpreter from there. I don't have it set up yet, but basically that's what it's gonna do, and it's gonna run the test for that specific through the specific PHP interpreter inside of Docker, and it's gonna run this test right here. So that brings me to the conclusion. You are a lot better right now with PHPStorm. If you have any more tricks, shortcuts, or anything you do with PHPStorm, please feel free to leave a comment with your suggestion, and I'm more than happy to try it out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you leave comments, make sure we interact, and make sure you hit the bell so you can be notified. I'm doing one video a week, so you can expect that from me. Have a great week once again, and I wish you the best. Stay safe, make sure you wear the mask, and have a good one.